Hello again. Thanks for joining us on Broadcasting Scotland. It's Monday, the 8th of August. I'm Andrew Wilson, and this is Scotland at 7. This evening, I have the latest daily update from Ukraine on day 166 of the illegal Russian war of aggression. Then I will introduce our guest for this evening, and then together we will look at today's headlines from Scotland and around the world. Ukraine and Russia have blamed each other for renewed shelling of Europe's largest nuclear power plant, the Zaporizhia. The UN nuclear watchdog has called for an immediate end to all military action near the plant after it was hit by shelling on Saturday night, causing one of the reactors to shut down and creating a very real risk of a nuclear disaster. The Zaporizhia nuclear power station is operating normally, according to reports from Yevgeny Baletsky, head of the Russian-installed administration of the occupied Zaporizhia region. The head of Ukraine's state nuclear power company, Energoatom, has called for the plant to be made a military-free zone and has said that there should be a team of peacekeepers present at the site. Ukraine has conducted long-range strikes on Russian troop bases and two key bridges across the Dnieper River overnight. The strikes hit the only two crossings Russia has to the pocket of southern Ukrainian territory it has occupied on the western bank of the Dnieper, says Natalia Humeniuk, a spokesperson for Ukraine's Southern Military Command. 4 ships carrying Ukrainian foodstuffs have sailed from Ukrainian Black Sea ports on Sunday. Pope Francis welcomed the departure of the ships, carrying grain from Ukrainian Black Sea ports, saying this could be a model for dialogue to bring an end to the war in Ukraine. Russia is strengthening its positions and numbers on Ukraine's southern front to ready itself for a Ukrainian counter-offensive and is likely to be preparing the ground to attack, according to British and Ukrainian military authorities. Ukraine is now investigating almost 26,000 suspected war crime cases committed since Russia's invasion in February and has charged 135 people, according to the Ukrainian chief war crimes prosecutor. President Zelensky said on Sunday that there could be no talks with Russia if it proceeds with referendums in occupied areas of Ukraine on joining Russia. Finland has registered a record number of asylum seekers following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, beating a previous high set during the 2015 migrant crisis. And the human rights group Amnesty International has apologised for the distress and anger caused by a report that accused Ukraine of endangering civilians. The apology comes after the resignation of Amnesty Ukraine's head, Oksana Pokalchuk. Now, we're lucky enough to be joined this evening by Chris McCusker. Chris is a carer, an activist, a trade unionist, and a human rights campaigner. Buenas noches, Chris. How are you?
Buenos dias, señor. ¿Cómo estás?
Muy bien. Thank you for joining us on Broadcasting Scotland this evening, Chris. It's great to see you.
A pleasure. It's been a while, mate.
So our first story this evening is that the First Minister has sought an emergency meeting of the Prime Minister and heads of devolved government council to agree steps to help people in need as a result of the cost of living crisis. In a letter to the Prime Minister urging the suggested September meeting be brought forward due to a fast deteriorating situation, the First Minister made her view clear that many people across the UK simply cannot afford to wait until September for further action to be taken. The meeting between leaders of the devolved governments and the UK government would provide an opportunity to agree actions that can be taken now and formulate a plan of action for the longer term. The Scottish Government Resilience Room will convene this week to discuss what steps can be taken to urgently ease the burden on households across Scotland, both now and in the future. The First Minister's letter follows a call from Ian Blackford, the SNP's Westminster leader, for the UK Parliament to be recalled so it can agree emergency measures to tackle the cost of living crisis. However, Boris Johnson has ruled out new cost of living measures until a new Prime Minister is in place, with Number 10 saying that the worst financial pressures on families will not hit until later in the year. The Prime Minister's official spokesperson said there were no plans for a Cobra meeting to address the cost of living crisis, and it would be for either Liz Truss or Rishi Sunak to work out a plan for dealing with the economic situation when the new Prime Minister is in post in a 1 month's time. So, Chris, firstly, do you think, is there any chance that either Boris Johnson or probably Larry the Downing Street cat, who seems to be running things at the moment, do you think there's a chance that either of them will listen to the First Minister?
I've heard that Larry's actually chucked it. To be fair, he's not getting his usual staple diet of Sheba and a wee sprig of parsley on the side of his plate. Well, no, I mean this really serious as to why the calls rightly at the time from Keir Starmer, and as you know, I'm not a great supporter of Keir Starmer, but it was right at the time to remove Boris. You know, a month ago when you know the writing on the wall was there for all to see, and install a deputy prime minister to run the country, so that these emergency meetings could be convened. You know, I mean now. I mean, for want of a better word, you could say that the prime minister is in gardening leave. You, you know, it's completely ineffective to have him there in that position, and the government seems to be completely paralysed. And the calls, quite rightly, from Ian Blackford and Nicola Sturgeon to uh, convene emergency Cobra meetings now is absolutely critical. There is no point in wasting time you know, putting things off and saying, well, you know, the worst is yet to come and we'll act before the worst is yet to come. People are feeling it now and they need action now, and they will need action ongoing. So the sooner that action starts, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely, Chris. As I said a moment ago, Downing Street has said that the bigger challenges for family budgets are coming towards the end of the year, and this would be a matter for either Truss or Sunak to decide whether to take action to help. Whether to take action to help. Does that language suggest to you that this Tory government simply does not care whether people live or die this winter?
Well, I mean, you know, the language is everything, as you know, in politics, and you, that word "whether" is very, very critical. You know, because I mean, at the moment we have Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak pandering to the Tory electorate, yeah, because they are the only ones that are allowed to have a say in this matter of a new prime minister, and we don't exactly know what you know if what policies that they're going to champion. You know, both are as incoherent as the other, because we had Liz Truss announcing a policy and then 5 hours later completely trashing it because obviously someone had taken it to one side and said it's completely unworkable. And at the same time, she actually denied that she actually dreamed it up. We therefore, on the other hand, have Rishi Sunak, and you know, he is yet to commit as to exactly how he is going to tackle any cost of living crisis. And it seems to me that you know, in order to rob the poor people of Tunbridge Wells, you know, to make sure that the people in you know, leafy suburbs of Surrey seems to be the way that they're going. You know, so we can hold out no hard, fast hope that it's going to be remedied anytime soon. And you know, sadly, when we look on the opposition benches, only recently, earlier on this week, we had Mick Lynch of the RMT basically putting the blame on Keir Starmer for not being effective enough to actually garner support for an alternative government that is ready and waiting to do the complete opposite as to what the Tories are proposing to do.
Absolutely, Chris. The complete opposite of the current apparent government approach, which, as you say, is to do absolutely nothing. It's astonishing. But let's move on and look at Boris Johnson from a slightly different perspective for a moment, because Conservatives want to do a deal with Boris Johnson for him to quit Parliament, and in return they will axe the inquiry into whether he misled them over Partygate, as allies of the Prime Minister branded it a witch hunt. Although he is due to leave Number 10 in less than a month, a Commons Privileges Committee inquiry is still ongoing into the Prime Minister's initial denials in December last year that any COVID laws were broken during lockdown. Some of Johnson's critics want him to stand down as an MP to avoid the process, keeping the spotlight on a deeply embarrassing issue for the party that has strained relations between colleagues. The investigation, which is being led by a committee with a Tory majority that chose Labour's Harriet Harman to chair it, is expected to drag on for months. A tranche of evidence has been demanded by the committee, including Johnson's diaries covering the 12 days on which parties were held in Westminster in defiance of the COVID rules, as well as emails, WhatsApp messages, photographs, internal notes, and a list of deleted documents. If Johnson is found to have misled Parliament, he could face suspension from the Commons and a recall petition which, if signed by 10% of his Uxbridge and South Ruislip constituents, would trigger a by-election. Unlike when Conservative MPs were whipped to save Owen Paterson, which sparked unrest within the party over sleaze and scandal, some of Johnson's fiercest Tory opponents have said that they would happily support ending the Partygate investigation if Johnson stepped down as an MP. So, Chris, one of Johnson's closest allies, the Culture Secretary Nadine Dorries, has insisted he must stay in politics, but she suggested that the Privileges Committee inquiry should be ended anyway. She said, if this witch hunt continues, it will be the most egregious abuse of power witnessed in Westminster. It will cast serious doubt not only on the reputation of individual MPs, but on the processes of Parliament and on democracy itself. So is this the pointer that we need in order to analyse this story? As usual, whichever way Mad Nad is pointing, we should look in the opposite direction to see what's going on.
Well, I'm going to immediately discount anything that Nadine Dorries actually says. I would highly doubt that she'd be able to spell egregious, let alone use it in a complete sentence. What is more disturbing is the fact that I've heard rumours that Ian Duncan Smith may be actually re-elected to the front bench, which is highly disturbing. We only need to look at his track record with regarding the benefit system, as to how he holds the common people in such high regard, shall we say. Getting back to Boris, however, Boris must be brought to account, for his actions or no actions. Should I be more precise? But I don't hold out much hope that that's actually going to happen. I think that it will be sidestepped, regardless of whether Boris steps back or, possibly does a Douglas Ross, and maybe only turns up once a week or something like that. I would expect that to be, Boris's involvement in politics going forward. I mean, he's got so much to make out of book deals and TV appearances, and I'm wholly expecting some sort of retribution for Dominic Cummings and how he was not effectively stabbed in the back, but as good as stabbed in the back. But whatever happens, as I say, it has to be. I'm delighted that Harriet Harman is chairing it, and I don't think that she'll, meekly stand to one side. But if the powers be of the establishment deem it not to be, or should I say, counterproductive, then it will fall by the wayside, because that's what the Tories have always wanted. Is to sweep all the muck under the carpet, so to speak.
Completely, Chris. Absolutely. And it crossed my mind, but it's a difficult one to unpick. But if Johnson's fiercest critics are saying that they would happily support ending the Partygate investigation if he stepped down, I wonder if that's because they and Nadine Dorris, for two, is that they have taken Johnson at his word when he said "hasta la vista" at his final PMQs, and they think that the story that's been doing the rounds that Johnson is going to rise again and return to Downing Street, and they're all hedging their bets because they all want a cabinet job from him.
Well, I mean, there is that possibility that Johnson will possibly do what the compadre over in America is proposing to do and come back into politics. The phoenix rising from the ashes. But I think that fear of that happening is actually worse than it actually happening. To be fair, and I think that Nadine Dorris is, wishing upon the stars. I don't see Boris coming back in any such way, shape, or form. However, I do see him, as I suggested earlier, staying in politics for maybe one day a week, similar to Douglas Ross at Westminster, and working within the ERG group, to keep his hand in, shall we say, because effectively Brexit was Boris's baby. We have to remember that. And he did say that he was deeply saddened that he couldn't enact many things, which would have espoused the various benefits of Brexit. One's also thinking that maybe Harry Houdini is actually now his PR man. We're still waiting for the proverbial rabbit to come out of the hat with that one. But whether Nadine Dorris has got any inside information, I very much doubt, because as far as I'm concerned, I think quite an awful lot of the Tory party don't actually pay any attention to Nadine Dorris as Nadine Dorris pays to herself.
Just like the rest of us, absolutely. Thanks, Chris. Now then, our next story this evening is that financial workers in London's financial district received double-digit wage rises last year, while people on the lowest incomes were paid annual increases of just 1%, according to a study that illustrates the ability of better-paid workers to protect themselves from the cost of living crisis. The Centre for Economics and Business Research said workers in the banking and insurance sectors had secured inflation-busting increases, together with lawyers, accountants and professional services staff, mainly among those working in London. The economic consultancy describes the figures as illustrating a tale of two labour markets, where the highest earners now enjoy annual pay growth of 10%, while the lowest earners see just a 1% rise. Nina Skerro, the consultancy's chief executive, said that while an increase in the national minimum wage will have raised the incomes of many low-paid workers, the data showed that many others were still not able to benefit. A rise in the national minimum wage of 6.6% in April was likely to be offset by a fall in the number of hours worked by those on low pay. Skerro said the lowest 10% of workers were falling well behind the general inflation rate of 9.4% and would suffer more than other groups should the Consumer Prices Index rise to 13%, as the Bank of England predicted in its latest forecasts. So, Chris, the CEBR described the figures as showing a tale of two labour markets, where the highest earners are now enjoying annual pay growth of 10%, whilst the lowest earners see just a 1% rise. How long do you think those getting a 1% rise are going to tolerate one rule for bankers and a different rule for the rest of us?
Well, to be honest with you, Andrew, it's not a matter of how long ordinary workers can tolerate it. It's how long that the Tory party can elongate it. And they don't wish to see any wage rises that are not, shall we say, commensurate with their economic timeline. Again, I would urge viewers to have a look at. Mick Lynch doesn't have a Twitter account, but I would urge viewers to have a look at the RMT Twitter line and see the latest post that Mick was talking about. And it's basically the fact that the current situation as it is cannot continue. I mean that is clear, and and this is not Mick's words, but I will add in the fact that the only way to effect change, as far as I can see, is for the whole country to go on a general strike, because as long as the right wing media pander to what the Tory party are proposing, with 2% rises and 3% rises, which in effect are anything between a 7 and 10% pay cut. People in the UK, all across the UK, have had actually a real terms cut, in the past 3 to 4 years, and a general strike would actually bring about, it possibly may bring about civil unrest, but more importantly than that, it would bring the matter to the fore, because an awful lot of people on the centre right of, shall we say, mainstream politics are so far dismissing union action and also demonising unions to be, hardy on the left, rubbing shoulders with barons, this made-up name of barons. There are no barons within the trade union movement. There never has been. But again, people need to realise that nothing actually works without workers. And workers' wages provide profit. And if these consortiums and conglomerates who are reaping the benefits just now of the economic crisis fail to realise the fact that if the worker doesn't turn up for work, then the light bulb doesn't go on, or the electricity switch doesn't get switched down. And to demonise workers when they have done so much over the last 2 years, considering the obvious effects of COVID. That is to their peril, because at some point in time something's going to give. And in that same interview, actually, Mick Lynch went one step further and said that the Labour Party have to stand up and start thinking about representing the people who they claim to represent, because ordinary workers won't stand for not having any voice within Westminster. And happily, we've got a voice in Scotland, where the party of government in Scotland is actually more to the left, than what the actual branch office of UK Labour could ever dream to be.
Absolutely, Chris. Thank you. Some very good points there, especially in the light of 12 years of austerity, with a previous Tory government, as you say, taking money out of people's pockets, and as a result, people then businesses being surprised that there's nobody there to do the work, and nobody can afford to buy their products. But let's move on to another politics story from Westminster now, because Dominic Raab is planning to curb judges' powers in a move that is likely to make it harder to bring successful legal challenges against the government in England and Wales, according to a report in The Guardian. The report says that the leaked Ministry of Justice paper suggests the Justice Secretary, who is also Deputy Prime Minister, is considering changes that would have the effect of limiting ministers' accountability in judicial reviews brought by claimants concerned about the way decisions have been taken by public bodies. The move comes amid rhetoric by ministers about overreach by judges and lefty lawyers, with the recent judicial review cases still outstanding, challenging the Rwanda deportation flights, which have attracted the ire of the government. despite the government having consulted on judicial review only last year and Parliament then passing the Judicial Review and Courts Act, which came into effect on the 15th of July. This Ministry of Justice document says, you, the Deputy Prime Minister, have indicated that you are minded to consult on further reforms to judicial review. Charlie Whelton, who's the Policy and Campaigns Officer at Liberty, said this leaked document suggests that the government plans to make it even harder for people to challenge them and make themselves even less accountable to the public. Now, Chris, Charlie Whelton also said this government is determined to make it as difficult as possible to take them to court and hold them accountable for unlawful actions. And Joe Maughan QC, who's the director of the Good Law Project, said, what Rab seems to want is a world in which the government is above the law. So do you think, is that what Rab's plan is? One law for the plebs and no laws whatsoever for the Tory government? How is that going to stick?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that is very accurate. And as well as that, they're going to also want to go one step further as well, by possibly scrapping the Human Rights Act, within the UK, which will make it even easier for them to circumvent various laws that have been previously laid down. What people, again, I hope the viewers don't get sick of this, but I'm going to hark back to trade unions again. The Tories started this with the running the coach and horses through the trade union bill back in 2014, 2015. And slowly but surely, they started taking away people's rights, trade union reps, their rights as well being curbed as to organise and to have sufficient facility time as well, in order to consult with their members. So again, one bit by bit and little by little, the Tories are looking to seize and centralise control into Whitehall, so that they can decide on what is right for one person's civil liberties. And what's not right. Again, we had Rishi Sunak earlier on saying basically anybody who speaks out against the government could be subject to, further action from the UK forces. Now, read into that what you like, but I mean, basically, if anybody, to my mind, speaks up against the union or against government policy, it's a possible minimum 60 days in the bloody tower, as far as I'm concerned. That's not just about Scottish independence. I believe that's also about Welsh independence. It could be of the unity of the island of Ireland. It could even be against the people of Cornwall, who actually want more powers devolved into that neck of the woods as well. And it's basically the Tories are saying it's our way or the highway, and we want to be above reproach. And this, I think, harking back to what I said earlier, is the fact that Boris Johnson had said that he had unfinished business to do. Well, I believe that there's still a memorandum on that stickboard in number 10, where either... Let's not beat about the bush here, right? I don't think that Sunak is actually going to get the Prime Minister's job, because I firmly believe that the Tory party will not elect a member of the BAME community, to that position. So they are going to elect a bimbo, basically a Barbie doll, who's going to be easily manipulated. And the ERG group, as far as I'm concerned, are going to pick off that pinboard, and they're going to be able to tick off Boris's yet-to-do list, shall we say.
Yep. Yep, no, I can understand that. I think Liz Truss went to Cambridge, but I'm not disagreeing with your analysis of the way in which she's been conducting her campaign. But Chris, time's against us. Let's move on to the next story now, because campaigners have begun a legal challenge against the government's decision to give the Sizewell C nuclear power station the go-ahead. That's amid warnings that UK nuclear plants will be on the front line of climate breakdown. Citing the threat to water supplies in an area officially designated as seriously water stressed, the threats to coastal areas from climate change and environmental damage, the challenge is the first step in a judicial review of the planning consent. The Business Secretary, Kwasi Kwarteng, overruled the independent planning inspectorate to grant permission for the new nuclear reactor in Suffolk in July. Kwarteng is pushing ahead with government plans to approve one new nuclear reactor a year as part of an energy strategy that aims to bolster the UK's nuclear capacity, with the hope that by 2050, up to 25% of projected energy demand will come from it. But Sizewell C has faced stiff opposition from local campaigners and environmental groups for both its cost and the environmental impact. In a letter to Kwarteng outlining their legal challenge, Together Against Sizewell C, Task argues that the permission by the government for the plant was given unlawfully. The planning inspectorate had rejected the scheme, saying, unless the outstanding water supply strategy can be resolved and sufficient information provided to enable the Secretary of State to carry out his obligations under the Habitats regulations, the case for an order granting development consent for the application is not made out. So, Chris, Task alleged that there's been a failure to assess the implications of the project as a whole by ignoring the issue of whether a permanent water supply could be secured. So Kwasi Kwarteng wants to build a nuclear power station without first securing a permanent water supply. Is there no end to the insanity?
Absolutely not. Appear not so. And let's not forget, there are parts of England at the moment starting to impose a hosepipe ban. I think it's tail end of this week, start of next week. But for by that, again, they are ignoring the advice of a fairly senior academic from the University of Sussex, who has advised against it. For all the right reasons, including environmental, as you point out. Again, Sizewell C is expected to cost 20 billion at the outset, and going on past experience, these projects never run to budget. So you could easily say that it's going to be 20 billion plus, and you can only guess as to what the final bill could possibly be. But there's also the other point that the University of Sussex, several academics at the University of Sussex have pointed out, as the fact that there is no plans in place for nuclear disposal, which would be produced from this proposal as well. And a site, of that size in the area of Sussex, I know Sussex fairly well. I just can't even imagine as to where they would propose to put it. The Tories talk great and large about protecting green belts and not using brownfields and stuff like that and all the rest of it. They are really all over the place with this because, again, I go back to that pinboard in Downing Street. This is another project that was on Boris's to-do list. And it seems to me that Kwasi Kwarteng is carrying on with this, obviously at someone else's behest. And I don't know why, because I don't think that Kwasi Kwarteng will have the remotest chance of staying in the post that he currently enjoys.
Absolutely, Chris. And I was thinking this afternoon, trying to understand the Tory government's obsession with nuclear energy. and as a commissioning a new plant every year, and supposedly that making a difference to the climate emergency that we're facing at the moment. But I was thinking about looking for an explanation, and then I noticed the answer at the end of one of the news reports. The last sentence, and there are two sentences. The last sentence was, "Bankers at Barclays have been hired to secure new financial backing for the project alongside EDF and the UK government." So, as usual,
Yeah.
it's not the Tory government, it's not about the climate crisis, it's about profits for bankers.
Yeah, 100%. And as well as bankers, it will be hedge fund managers. It will be those persons identified from abroad, as you quite rightly say, the likes of EDF and stuff like that. Just basically see what kind of profits that they can cream out of this current vanity project. And and Tories are great at playing, or paying lip service, shall we say, on various matters, and coming out with the correct sound bites. But when you dig further deeper into it, the common denominator is always bankers' profits. And there's normally, and this is my own thoughts on this, but normally there are some deals to be made for the chosen few who have got a vested interest, shall we say. So I
And there's
mean, it's quite right. But I mean, again, I spent nearly 12, 13 years down the southeast corner, and again, I know Sussex quite well, and I'm just struggling to, I mean, I'm thinking about industrial sites and stuff like that, and all the rest of it. There are just none, that spring to mind.
No, absolutely, absolutely, Chris, and it's Suffolk, but let's stay in Suffolk actually for our next item, because the Guardian is reporting that Scottish Power is planning to build a £150 million green hydrogen plant at the port of Felixstowe to power trains, trucks, and ships. The energy company has drawn up proposals for a plant at the Suffolk port to produce the fuel using renewable electricity from 2026 in quantities equivalent to 100 megawatts a year. That's enough to power 100,000 homes. The company, owned by the €63 billion Spanish utilities giant Iberdrola, said demand for the green fuel had stepped up since petrol and diesel prices began to soar last year, emboldening the firm to invest. It has submitted an application to the government's Net Zero Hydrogen Fund, which provides state backing to develop low carbon hydrogen projects for the next 3 years. Scottish Power estimated the whole project could cost between £100 and £150 million. Scottish Power plans to build the facility, which will be around the size of a football pitch, on brownfield land within the port, which is one of the busiest in the UK and a trade hub. Green hydrogen is produced by using renewable electricity to drive an electrolyser that splits water into hydrogen and oxygen. The gas is burned to produce power, emitting only water vapour and warm air and no greenhouse gases. So, Chris, we're staying in Suffolk and we're just down the coast from the proposed Sizewell C site. But Barry Carruthers, who's the hydrogen director at Scottish Power, told The Guardian the strength of demand from the port itself, logistics and distribution companies, and rail freight has given us the confidence to press ahead. This is a big industrial scale project that we're doing at pace. So, should we be pushing Scottish Power to instigate big industrial scale projects to be manufacturing green hydrogen in Scotland as well?
Yeah. We definitely should do, and can offer my apologies. That I did mean Suffolk when I did say Sussex, but I lived in Surrey, and it was easy to get into one county as it is, to get into another. But no. Listen, I mean, as welcome as this is, again, we've got to bring it back to profits, and we all know that green energy is not as profitable for the aforesaid hedge fund managers and conglomerates as what fossil fuel is. And that's possibly why the Tories are not really that interested in green energy. And what you have to do is compare and contrast between the investment and also the innovation, that is seen on our side of the border compared to England, to these projects, as you find that one government is more agreeable to do, R&D investment into these projects as what another company is. Uh, there must be well, not. I would possibly say strategic plans as to why they've chosen Felixstowe. Obviously, is possibly easier to feed into the national grid. I would assume, but the other side of the coin is that, do we have these vehicles that they're talking about? Are they actually ready to run on the fuel that they actually propose to use? And if that's the case, then what is the knock-on effect for other industries to benefit from this? It would be really quite interesting to actually find out, what the capacity,
Yes,
in order to enjoy the benefits of the proposal.
absolutely, Chris. Thank you. Now then, let's move on to our next story this evening, because Senate Democrats have passed their climate and healthcare spending package on Sunday, sending the legislation to the House and bringing Joe Biden one step closer to a significant legislative victory ahead of the crucial midterm elections in November. When signed into law, the bill, formerly known as the Inflation Reduction Act, will allocate $369 billion to reducing greenhouse gas emissions and investing in renewable energy sources. Experts have estimated the climate provisions of the bill will reduce America's planet heating emissions by about 40% by 2030 compared to 2005 levels. Democrats have promised the bill will also lower healthcare costs for millions of Americans by allowing Medicare to negotiate prescription drug prices and capping Medicare recipients' out of pocket prescription drug prices at $2,000 a year. Those who receive health insurance coverage through the Affordable Care Act marketplace are also expected to see lower premium costs as a result. The legislation also includes a number of tax provisions to cover the costs of these policies, bringing in $739 billion for the government and resulting in an overall deficit reduction of roughly $300 billion. The policy changes include a new corporate minimum tax, a 1% excise tax on stock buybacks, and stricter enforcement by the Internal Revenue Service, the equivalent of HMRC. The final Senate vote was 51 to 50, with every Democrat supporting the bill, while all 50 of the Republican colleagues opposed the legislation. With the Senate evenly divided on the bill's passage, Vice President Kamala Harris cast the tie-breaking vote. Because Democrats used the reconciliation process to advance the bill, they needed only a simple majority to pass the proposal, allowing them to avoid a Republican filibuster. So, Chris, I'm interested in the practical politics of such wide-ranging legislation: green policies, tax policies, healthcare policies, and corporate tax, all wrapped up in the same bill. Do you think, was this a political attempt by Joe Biden's administration to try and provide something for more or less everyone at the same time in advance of the November midterms?
Yeah, that's the way that I read it, and the most welcome one, obviously, is the impact it's going to have on healthcare. Everybody knows that America has long suffered a disproportionate healthcare system, which affects absolutely millions of people in the United States. It's a healthcare system that's driven solely by profit, and not, obviously at the behest of the point of need. But again, as well as that, the green issues that are going to be addressed by this are long overdue, considering America's, tag of being a gas guzzling nation and a wasteful nation when it comes to the burn off of excess fuels and stuff like that and all the rest of it, whether it's through cars, whether it's through production. So I mean, I think it will be welcomed. It's curious that you cite the numbers and how it actually managed to creep over the line. It's not surprising the fact that Republicans didn't go cock a hoop over it, shall we say. Again, I think it's a welcome move and a positive move from the Biden administration. That I think everybody was looking forward to Biden introducing measures such as this. And if in Biden's tenure, if he could maybe not even up the equilibrium of American politics, I think if he can at least add a wee bit, to the scale to, come close to leveling it up, I think that would be a plus for everyone, because it's, as far as I'm led to believe, that these are laws once passed, are quite actually hard, to renege on, shall we say, and it takes a long time for them to be what is the word, Andrew? Is it renege or repeal?
Repeal, but that's fine.
Repeal.
Your point's well made, Chris. Especially when so many different people will be benefiting as a result of the implications of the bill, which is the Inflation Reduction Act. But let's move on to another story from the Americas next, because Colombia's first left-wing president has been sworn into office, promising to fight inequality and bring peace to a country long haunted by bloody feuds between the government, drug traffickers, and rebel groups. Gustavo Petro, a former member of Colombia's M19 guerrilla group, won the presidential election in June by beating conservative parties that offered moderate changes to the market-friendly economy, but failed to connect with voters frustrated by rising poverty and violence against human rights leaders and environmental groups in rural areas. On Sunday, he said Colombia was getting a second chance to tackle violence and poverty, and promised that his government would implement economic policies that seek to end long-standing inequalities and ensure solidarity with the nation's most vulnerable. The incoming president said he was willing to start peace talks with armed groups across the country and also in the United States and other developed nations to change drug policies that are focused on the prohibition of substances like cocaine and have fed violent conflicts across Colombia and other Latin American nations. Mr. Petro said it's time for a new international convention that accepts that the war on drugs has failed. So, Chris, Gustavo Petro said, of course, peace is possible, but it depends on current drug policies being substituted with strong measures that prevent consumption in developed societies. His words. So do you think, in his words, developed societies, are they going to listen to his calls for stronger measures to prevent consumption and as a result, the violence and the killing in Colombia reducing?
Well, I mean, I'm going to draw on history here, so you need to give me a bit of latitude. The whole story about the drug industry in America has largely been documented by Hollywood, obviously. The trade from Southern American countries into actual sense, the actual US. And it has been suggested that a portion of that has actually been facilitated by America because they acknowledge the fact that drugs are widely available on the American market through whatever outlet, be it legal or illegal. But I'm interested to see, exactly what Petro, actually proposes, and his left-sided credentials, seem to be put out there, and the fact that he's coming up with uh, not just this announcement, but also he's talking about anti-poverty measures as well, and trying to radically reform again the access to healthcare and stuff like that. And a lot of similarities could be sort of like drawn, between himself and one certain Che Guevara, who was branded, an extremist by the American government, because it suits the American government to carry on the equilibrium that has, been facilitated between America and the South American countries as well. I mean, if he is truly going to work for the people, then why not give him a chance and stuff like that? I mean, what harm can come from uh, you, you, trying to make ordinary people's lives, a bit better, and obviously, if he's willing to tackle drugs, as you say, such as products like heroin and stuff like that, and byproducts of coca, and all that kind of caper, then it's got to be welcomed. Surely they have to listen to him, at least.
Absolutely, Chris. Thank you. And as you said at the beginning of the program, words matter. And certainly, the new Colombian president has said that he will ensure solidarity, specifically with his nation's most vulnerable, which is a change there. But let's come back to Scotland for our final story this evening, because speaking ahead of the Results Day, which is tomorrow, the Education Secretary, Shirley Ann Somerville, has thanked teachers, school staff, and the Scottish Qualifications Authority for all of their efforts. Ms Somerville said, "While we saw a return to exams this year, it wasn't yet a return to normality. Continued disruption as a result of COVID-19 meant that there had to be a different approach to exams. That approach, which was informed by views from across the education system as well as learners themselves, had one clear aim: to deliver a fair set of results for our young people while maintaining the integrity of qualifications. I would like to thank teachers, school staff, and the SQA who have all worked incredibly hard to achieve this," she said. "Due to their efforts, learners can be confident that the results they receive on Tuesday fairly demonstrate their skills, knowledge, and understanding. They can also know that their qualifications will be valued wherever they go, whether education, training, or into the workforce." So, Chris, a broader question for you this evening. Can you remember any of your results days, or those of your family, perhaps?
My results day. Uh, I, can, I can hardly remember how the 11 plus was formulated, Andrew, let alone my actual results day. No, I mean, yeah, yeah, I'm not that old to remember waiting for the envelope and stuff like that and opening my results. I'm happy to regale in other people's achievements, such as both of my sons, who
Yes,
managed to surpass their father and go to university,
exactly.
and benefit from the terrible education system that Scotland has got at this moment in time, according to the Tories. But yeah, no, I mean, listen, it should be welcomed, the fact that the SQA, the teachers, and not only the teachers, actually, I might add, I'll chuck my tuppence worth in to the support staff and the cleaners and all the rest of it, who have kept the schools going, and who have all worked in order to make sure that the students' exams are brought about with a minimum of disruption. And hopefully we've learned the lessons of a few years ago, when there was a bit of a debacle over the SQA results and stuff like that. You know, because I mean, again, if there isn't, any questions that can be thrown up for this, it's one less thing for the Tories to squawk about. You know, as I say, they constantly like to denigrate the Scottish education system, despite various agencies reporting that Scottish education is actually on the up.
Yes.
But you know, as you know, Andrew, it's constantly reported in the right wing media. You know that we've got the worst education system in the whole world. You know, so but no. Listen, again, people have to take everything at face value, and you know, I really hope that. The one thing that really bugs me about the right wing media when they're talking about education is the fact that they're not just dumbing down on education, they're actually dumbing down on students' achievements. Do you know
Exactly.
what I mean? And that is really, really sad.
Absolutely, Chris. Criticising the education system in the manner that they do, they are attacking teachers, the support staff, parents, and the young people who are studying as well. And it goes nowhere. But thanks, Chris, because that is all that we have time for this evening. In making these programmes, Broadcasting Scotland relies on the support of viewers and others who value our distinctive approach to news, current affairs, and culture. Please help us to continue to make these programmes, to develop the station, and to make new programmes for you. If you would like to support us, then please subscribe or donate to Broadcasting Scotland. You will find the link to do that on the screen now. If you're already subscribing to us, then please share us and tell your friends and others about Broadcasting Scotland, and they might subscribe too. There are other ways in which you can contribute to our work. If you would like to volunteer to work with Broadcasting Scotland, either behind the scenes or in any other way that helps the station, then please visit our website at www.broadcastingscotland.scot and send us a message there. You can find us on Twitter at BroadcastScot. Please like and retweet us. And you can also find us on Facebook by searching for Broadcasting Scotland. When you're watching us on YouTube, it would be great if you would like and subscribe to Broadcasting Scotland on that platform. So, meantime, we will be here again tomorrow evening with the next edition of Scotland at 7, so please tune in and join us again then. But that's the way it is now at very nearly Scotland at 8. I'd like to say thank you to everyone who's been watching us, and a very special thanks to our very special guest, Chris McCusker. Thanks, Chris.
No, again, as I said at the top of the show there, Andrew, it's a pleasure to be back on with you, my friend.
It's been great to see you. Thanks, Chris. Now, on this day in 1812, Henry Bell ran Europe's first commercial steamboat service from Glasgow's Broomielaw to Greenock using the steamboat the Comet. I won't be setting sail for anywhere this evening, but if you're afloat, I hope that you enjoy fair winds. I also hope that you can join us again here on Broadcasting Scotland very soon. Bye-bye.